big warm-hearted welcome to all the viewers watching the show, Soul to Soul Talk Show. As we had started this journey, we had told you that we will be taking a spiritual journey with people from different countries and different professions who have incorporated spirituality in their lives. And today we will be continuing this journey with yet another eminent person, Brother Anthony Phillips from UK, and he is a former advertising executive and has been a member of the Brahmakumaris family since the past 31 years and is presently a teacher at the Brahmakumari Center in UK, that is the global retreat center in UK, and he has joined us today on this show. Brother, welcome to the show. A pleasure
hello.
to have you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, brother, can we start to know this show with knowing about your childhood and how did you have a healthy upbringing? Were you from an economically sound background?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had a normal childhood in the UK. I was born in the 50s. I was brought up in the 60s, which were pretty wild. And I went to through a normal schooling system at that time. It was a private schooling system. And by the time I got out, the world in England wasn't so good. All the miners were on strike and there was no work, so I had to go and live in Canada. I emigrated to Canada at the age of 21. And then I spent 31 years there. And then at 55 I came back to England to live at the Global Retreat Centre in Oxford. So that's where I live now. But I never worked in England. I only worked in North America and all over the world. So I don't really know the English system very well. I'm kind of a foreigner in my own country, actually. But it's enjoyable. I like being a tourist.
What about your religion? Which religion were you born in?
I was born at Church of England, very ordinary, Christian.
And did you follow the principles of your religion?
Well, I don't know. I suppose there are principles of the religion. It wasn't ever put in that way. The societal norms are quite strong, and you just go along with what you go along with. And I quite liked actually going to church. If I remember my youth, I used to quite like the feeling in churches.
What was the feeling you got in the church?
Well, have you ever been into a church?
Yes, I have.
So you come from Bangalore, so you'd find them all cold, but they're cool and they're peaceful generally. And so I think I personally can remember getting a lot of benefit just sitting and feeling the peace. I don't know whether I really analysed or understood the ins and outs of the dogma of the religion. I know there are lots of people who say, "Oh, none of it made sense," and they couldn't answer my question when I asked them questions, etc., etc. But I never really suffered from that problem. I'm not sure I paid that much attention, really. I just kind of went with the flow.
So you just went there for the feel that you got. You did not go there to say pray to God.
Not really, no. I mean, I did experience prayer.
Who is God? Like, did you believe in God?
These are big questions. Did I believe in God? Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think I've always believed in God. Because I'm not sure believing in God is something I'm terribly interested in doing, though. I think knowing God, understanding God, relating to God, yeah.
And did your religion help you in doing that? No, I would say not. And why?
Well, it's probably all my fault. I probably didn't listen enough. I met quite a few priests, and I like priests, and I like sincere people. So anyone who's sincere, I like them. I think everyone does.
Yes, everyone does.
And I can remember studying all the bits and pieces of the scriptures and all the rest of it. I'm not exactly sure what I was looking for. It was kind of the vibration. I liked the vibration of religion. Yeah.
What about the fact that there are many religions, and each one has a different picture of God? Did you believe in that? That there can be so many gods existing?
No. Well, I never thought there were so many gods existing. I as I say, I didn't pay much attention. So I kind of already had my own ideas.
Oh,
and
you
I
had
have
your own
a very,
ideas of what?
Well, about God, for instance.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and they haven't changed, actually. I've always been on a very subatomic level, kind of knowing, which is more than believing, that there is one God. And however you want to dress he, she, or it up, it's one God. And then the question is, can I know God? Can I understand God? Can I connect with God? This is something I think I've always wanted. Before the turning up to anything to do with the Brahmakumaris, I think wanting a connection to God was very deep within me.
So did this deep sort of question in you, shape your dreams for your future?
Well, as I never really had any dreams. I don't know that it did. No, it was just there. It wasn't a questioning. It wasn't even a yearning. It was just very deep within me. I mean, I know it might be boring, but that's what it was. Yeah.
So on one side you had this, all these questions popping up.
Yeah.
But on the other side you had to flow with life and take up a profession.
Yeah. Well, that was easy. I needed the money.
So tell us about your professional.
Oh, my profession is very simple. I was not very good in school. I don't know whether I'm dyslexic or just stupid, but I failed all my exams, or at least the important ones. And I know in India one doesn't like to do that.
Yeah, because you don't get promoted.
I
to the
know,
next
you don't
classes.
get anywhere. But in those days, luckily, it was possible to survive, at least. And so my parents, bless them, thought, well, he's a jolly chap. I mean, we'll send him to hotel school. So, you can fail your exams and still go to hotel school. At least you could in those days. You probably can't now. And I turned up there, and I soon found out that when you're in the hotel business, you're working when everyone else is playing. And that didn't seem compatible to the kind of life I wanted. So, as I said, I was in England, brought up during the 60s. So in the early 70s, when I popped out of university or hotel school, I couldn't find any work in England. So I went to Canada and worked as a consultant in the hotel business, which is rather incredible given that I was only 21 years old. But anyway, and after about a year, I lost my job because the tax laws in America changed and various things happened. And anyway, I eventually wound up in business with a big pharmaceutical company and worked my way up there. And I discovered that the people doing my advertising were having much more fun than I was. And so I thought, I think I better do advertising. And so that's when I started in the advertising business, and eventually I got good at it.
And was this like a very stress-filled, pressure-filled journey?
Do you know, I can't really remember. I mean, I can remember joking once when somebody who was, rather junior in our profession said to me, "My goodness, Mr. Phillips, don't you get terribly stressed?" And I thought it was rather funny to say, "No, I don't get stress. I give stress." But I hope I didn't give too much stress. I think your point of view, your perspective, the context within which you work will cause you to have stress or not. And being on the spiritual journey that I'm on, one of the happy, lucky side effects is that stress hasn't been my bedfellow. So what can I say?
So you had taken up spirituality even when you were in the
Well,
profession?
this is a problem. I don't think I took up spirituality. It's like spirituality is some kind of technique, so that I can win in the game of life. I don't think so. I think we are all. I know we are all spiritual beings, and so to be spiritual is to be normal.
But you
to
didn't know
be-
that when you were working.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was always
Hmm.
spiritually oriented. Told you earlier, I always knew that God was there. I had this very deep feeling about my original nature. And I mean, I remember way back, I mean, I knew the Brahmakumaris 40 years ago, actually. And my sister was pretty well the first person in the world to become a BK outside of India. And there was a period when I wasn't a BK, and she was. I mean, you can imagine in the mid-60s or the late 60s. No, it was actually the early 70s. You know, we're kind of running around doing our thing, living our lives. And my sister Denise was a normal, English girl. And then one day she turned up in a white sari and told us everything was upside down and inside out. And so I have to say, I didn't really relate very much to the long, complicated Indian words. And I think my intuition was that all the information that she shared with me was kind of intuitively, I felt that it was right. It made sense to me, although actually, from an empirical point of view, it didn't really make sense. But in an intuitive point of view, it made sense.
Okay.
And I guess it took me about 10 years to go, oh, well, maybe I'll have a go.
So you kept thinking about what she'd said?
Oh, yes.
these
And I
10
thought,
years?
actually, I can remember my perspective. My perspective was fantastically, beautifully arrogant. It was, yeah, you have your system, and I know that's right, and I have mine, and, I'm right, and you kind of fit into my system. And eventually, in the kind of the game of spiritual arm wrestling, she must have won, although I never noticed we were having an arm wrestling match. But I think, I never, people join the Brahmakumaris, they became a BK. I never became a BK. So maybe I shouldn't be on the show. But somehow I kind of just got closer and closer. People have these amazing experiences and, some sort of burning bush experience or whatever it is. And they, whatever. And they changed their life, like from that moment on. And I wasn't like that at all. Not at all. I actually only ever got anywhere near the Brahmakumaris because it makes sense. Now
It wasn't making sense initially?
No. It always made sense.
Oh,
What's
always.
wonderful about the teachings of the Brahmakumaris is that the feeling is beautiful and everyone loves it. When an ordinary person comes into a group of Brahmakumaris, they feel good. I think pretty well all the time. You have this experience a lot. People say, oh, that's fantastic vibes. Shame about the saris. Not in India, but in England, might say that. Or they say, well, but some of their ideas are kind of wacky, And I, being an advertising person, I quite like wacky ideas. But when I heard some of the ideas of the Brahmakumaris, they didn't worry me at all. And in fact, I've spent my life trying to figure out the meaning behind these more controversial ideas. And as I go deeper and deeper, this is when the richness of the teachings of the Brahmakumaris really hits my heart, and it makes more and more and more sense. And one of the things I've noticed is actually what the Brahmakumaris are saying and what some of the very deepest, the most amazing, especially scientific thinkers are thinking and saying are very, very compatible.
Oh.
And so, that delights me, because when two dots connect, and
It all makes sense
maybe there's
then.
something right about it, And we have this saying, how you make butter? Do you know how you make butter? You must
by
know how you
churning.
make- churning.
Yeah.
That's right. So, but you can do the same thing with this material that we work with in the Brahmakumaris. You churn it. I mean, if you learn the material and then you spurt it out to people and stick it up their nose, basically, you say, "Oh, this is the teaching of the Brahmakumaris." In my opinion, what you're doing is you're just creating another scripture for people to either agree or disagree with. I think the only thing you got to do with this material is churn it internally, and you make from the milk, which is the information, you make the butter, which is really nourishing spiritual food, and then you change, and then the message really isn't any words I say. That's why actually this medium of TV is not actually very good. I myself am the message. You know, so if I want to reveal some deep spiritual truth, then unless I am the deep spiritual truth, you ain't going to get it. Because, you know, one of my latest churnings is that truth is not information. I mean, that's... So, and the only currency the human race has, by the way, is information. So you think about it, if truth isn't information, because everyone thinks, I mean, you know, it could be anyone, you know, and we can say, oh, well, let me tell you the truth about God. And you say, what group of words could you say that probably hasn't already been said before, probably isn't very, very nice and all charming and wonderful and makes everyone feel good, but like, what good does it do? Where does it take you? It's just more blah blah. So I don't think we need it. Do you want to stop this interview, or shall we go on? No, let's go on. Okay,
let's go on.
Let's go on. Okay. So this is what I like about the Brahmakumaris. I mean, the thing is, like any organization, like any group of more than 3 people, people have their own ideas. They come in with their own perspective, and then what happens is they hear some information. It goes through the lens of their preconceptions, and then it lands in their brains, and then they send it out through another lens of another preconception, and it all gets distorted. So everyone actually is operating under completely distorted everything. And so what to do? I mean, in a sense, the task of God is so impossible that you need to be God to take it on.
You need to be God to take it on?
Yeah, not I, but God needs to be God to take it on. If, you know, a question you might ask is, what is God's job? And then I would ask, well, whatever is God's job is, what is God's qualification? You know, these are kind of wacky questions that nobody asks. What are God's qualifications? You know? And
you found answers?
Well, you know, through being a BK, and what I like about the BKs is the people. Is the people I hang out with. I mean, there are plenty of BKs that I don't know, and I may not like them. I don't know if I got to know them. But the ones I have got to know, the ones I live with, they're very sincere. But you can find lots of sincere people in all sorts of other spiritual groups or anywhere. You know, in business you can find sincere people. That's great. But they think about very important things. They work with very important things. And we talk about these things. And in the talking, like you and I are talking now, you kind of get ideas and you share them. And then, you know, depending on who you're with, you're either allowed to explore it or they shut you down, you know. Because, you know, we have the habits of many lives and the whole of society, you know, really encouraging dogma, encouraging the use of correct information. You know, so I don't think there is any such thing as correct information. There is just information in a context. You know, maybe the ultimate correct information is, I'm a soul. But what does that mean? I'm a soul. You know, in the first lesson of the Brahmakumaris, they say, you're a soul. And you have a body. Yeah? Well, yeah, but you've got to remember, that's the first lesson. If you were teaching quantum physics to a little person and you gave them the first lesson in quantum physics, you probably wouldn't tell them, what was really going on in the first lesson. You'd just be trying to orientate your student so that they could eventually get the deep, deep understanding of what it is that we're trying to teach. Well, in the same way, soul consciousness is not, as they say, like going to your auntie's home. It is not a sort of paint by numbers concept. It's not actually even a feeling. It's beyond feeling. It's beyond information. It's very subtle. And, subtle means subtle. It means like, whoa, it slipped out of my hands. I mean, you're too young, but when I was a young guy, we were allowed to play around with mercury. And, in school they banned that.
Yes.
And, you can't pick it up.
Right.
So the same thing, it just slips out of your fingers. You kind of got to allow things to happen. You got to watch. And this idea of churning material to make it your own, to make it real, and then making it into your life. And then there's a huge spiritual disease that the whole human race has. And in fact, I think it's the only disease.
What is that?
Well, in short, it's looking good syndrome. Really. And we all have it. I mean, I know I've got it. And you've got to be on your guard for it, because when you have looking good syndrome, and I'm sure you understand what I mean.
That everyone wants to look better than the
Everyone
other.
wants to look good. I mean, I don't want to look better. I just want to look all right. I want you to approve of me. I don't want you to disapprove of me. I don't want you to be upset. I don't want, I don't want to defame the honor of my clan. Whatever it is, we've all got, to one extent or another, looking good syndrome. And the problem is this gets in the way of the reality of ourselves. And it creates all sorts of unrealities that we all have to deal with. And then it gets complicated, and then, then hell is created. But it's not just, you can say, non-spiritual people are bad people. But spiritual people, actually, it's much worse disease in a spiritual person than in a non-spiritual person.
How is that?
So misleading. We all, for instance, this idea of, say for instance, are you enjoying this interview?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're in danger.
Why?
Of being led down a garden path by my cleverness and my enjoying my company. This is all, to be totally detached. And we don't learn how to be detached. There is, I told you the fundamental disease is looking good syndrome, but there's a fundamental formula by which the human race live that is the wrong formula. And it's sort of anti-Raj Yoga. It's sort of slave yoga. And it's very simple. Here's the formula. It's what's going on, so how do I feel? And that's it. That's how all of us live all the time. Right now, what's going on? You're having a nice interview with Anthony.
Right.
How do you feel? Great, I think I'll stay. But if it wasn't a good interview, you'd be remediating the situation. You'd be closing it down, or you'd have the editing suite cut me off, or whatever it is that you have to do. In the same way, you said earlier, gosh, it's cool in here.
Yes.
Well, immediately what we do is remediate the situation. We turn up the heat. If you think about all the decisions you've made, the house you live in, the school you went to, the person you're connected with, your, whatever, the maid, or I don't know, whatever, the clothes you're wearing, it was all about satisfying this fundamental formula. And the problem is, the formula is the wrong formula. It's the formula of the slave. Because it means that what's going on is what causes you to feel peace of mind, to love and be loved, to be happy, to be content, to be sincere, to feel empowered. All those things that the human race wants, which, when you hear a BK speaking, anyone who's listening to this program, we have to be peace, love, happiness, contentment, purity and power. Well, the whole human race wants that, and is doing a great job getting it by buying a new BMW, or getting a nice pretty girl, or having another drink, or getting a job. I mean, the problem with that happiness and that fulfillment is that it is what we call ephemeral. can
Yes,
be destroyed.
temporary. So in this episode, we just got an outline of the spiritual experiences that he will be taking us through, and in the forthcoming episode, we will continue this journey with Brother Anthony, and in depth we will understand the knowledge that he has got, and all the questions that you have in your mind hopefully will be answered. Do join us in the next episode and have a great time. Thank you, brother, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for joining us.